So here we are again, and we would like to speak again about the work that we are doing together with my colleague and student, Nikos Athanasakis. This is the work that we are doing lately about bioenergetics and essence. My teacher, Faisal Muqaddam, had really told us very often that for him one of the easiest ways to access the flow of essence in the system, in the body, has been bioenergetics. So I took it to heart and I wanted really to explore that for myself. I wanted to find out. And so I came to this idea to explore bioenergetics, the flow of essence, of course the release that is involved in the bioenergetic work, and to see that in connection to the essence in the body, or to the essential flow. And indeed it has been a really wonderful experience, very, very deep. I didn't expect that, and I would like to ask you to say something about that, since we do this group together.
Sure. Actually, what I wanted to say is a connection that I made between something that Alexander Lowen said. Alexander Lowen was the founder of bioenergetics. He was a student of Wilhelm Reich, and he founded bioenergetic analysis and all these wonderful exercises that we do in the groups. And I wanted to speak about a connection I made between something that he said, a mantra of his, and the way we work, and the essence work, basically. And this mantra of Alexander Lowen's, very simply, was self-awareness, self-expression, and self-possession. Quite simply, Alexander Lowen was a simply wise man, I would say. He had a simple wisdom, the wisdom of the body. And this describes basically the whole range, or the process of healing, or the process of therapy. And the connection I made was connecting it to a map of the human being. In our work, and in the last video, many times we talk about this map of the human being, which is just a way to look at the human being in his many aspects and his many layers. And in this map, on the outermost layer, we have the psychological layer, which contains all of our psychological history. It's the result of our interaction with the outside world. It contains our psychological history, our traumas, our wounds, our patterns, all of our psychological history, as I said.
Well, what happened in childhood, basically.
Yeah, what happened in childhood, and how we carry it with us in our body and in our psyche, basically. So when Alexander Lowen is speaking about self-awareness, he's speaking exactly about a process with the psychological layer, which is all about becoming aware. It's about becoming aware of our defenses, our patterns, our trauma, becoming aware of our psychological history and how we carry it. And at the beginning, when we begin the process, our awareness is very little is aware. Almost everything is in the unconscious. Our awareness is almost like a small beam of light in this vast expanse of the unconscious. And so, at the beginning of the process, the whole idea is about expanding our self-awareness, about becoming more aware of all of what is in the psychological layer, our psychological history. And moving further in this map of the human being, we come to the energetic layer, which is about the level of energy in the human being. And looking at the energetic layer, we see how much of a need there is for release, for emotional release. Our energy has been so blocked, so stifled, so stagnated from wounding in the psychological layer. We've accumulated so much pent-up energy and emotion that there's such a need for release.
So much frozen energy.
Yeah, so much frozen energy, which needs to be released, which needs to be expressed. And again, it's exactly what Lowen is speaking about when he's talking about self-expression. It's releasing, it's expressing our emotions, everything that's locked up in this energetic layer.
And the third layer, as we move more inward, is the essential aspect of the human being. And this is exactly the essence of our being. This is as Gurdjieff or Uspensky were calling, all what is innate in the human being is not something that is learned, that comes afterwards, the patterns or the blockages or whatever, the history created with us. It's not something of the personality, it's something authentic of the being, it's something that springs from within, directly from the source. This is our essence, the essence of our being.
And this ties in very well actually with the third part of Lowen's mantra, or his philosophy, which is self-possession, possessing more of ourselves, becoming more of ourselves, of our true selves, which is our essence, very simply. And when we possess more of ourselves, when we're more of ourselves, we become the charioteer of our being, the charioteer of our whole structure, and we command and we align the instinctual, the emotional, the cognitive, all the levels of the human being, all of our multiple aspects.
It's really so beautiful. And that process goes from becoming aware of the psychological, the content of the psychological layer, the psychological aspect. Then we have the release, the expression, as Lowen says it, in the energetic layer, the catharsis, the release, the melting of the frozenness in the energetic layer, which brings us again back in contact with the essence that lies deeper. It's more subtle, that layer, in the essential layer. Huh? And that is about the self-possession. So that's really very beautiful. So we've been exploring in this work that we offer here the connection of bioenergetics with releasing, and in this way allowing again the flow of essence in our system. Of course, as my colleague said here and student, bioenergetics is something that is a bit old already. It's the work of Alexander Lowen, that was a student of Wilhelm Reich. And back in those days when Lowen created bioenergetics, there were not so many somatic approaches or body-oriented psychotherapies. Today there is so much in that field. And we found out by time that it's not good to just hammer against the defense and break the defense, as it was happening back in the old days where bioenergetic was just found and created and experimented with. And the reason is because when we want to break the defense without being resourced, it's almost dangerous for the human being, because there is so much disintegration, of course, of the egotistical structure, that which is okay, eventually this needs to happen, but without being resourced, at some point the person in therapy might become even dysfunctional. It's too much dismantling. Now in our days there is so much more awareness or development of the body-oriented psychotherapists, and we know that we need a combination of, yes, facing or becoming aware or disintegrating the ego structure, the way it is expressed in the body, which is the ego shell, the body of tensions around our beautiful essential body, but of course in connection to resourcing. Yeah, otherwise it's almost dangerous to do that. It can be really dangerous at times. And yes, eventually we need to face those defenses, we need to become aware of them, and bioenergetics is a wonderful, wonderful work that can facilitate that process. But how can we do that in a way that is safe? How to resource the person in therapy? This is all big questions that we have been facing. So the first, of course, resource that is there when we do the work is the attachment or the relationship that is created between the therapist and the person in therapy. In the first place, the person in therapy comes for the therapy in order to heal or to have the corrective experience from the first bonding or attachment or the first relationship with the parents that didn't go so well. So creating that therapeutic alliance, that relationship of trust with the therapist, is already part of the healing and resourcing. How can we, as therapists, ask the people in therapy that come to us to ask them to disintegrate, to dismantle the structure, if we don't give them the safety of the connection with us, the basic trust that we will be there to hold them. So this is the first resourcing, that relationship of trust that we develop, that we are really there for them, that we really care, that we are really attentive to the process every step of the way. And then what we discover and what we practice in this work is that the real resourcing, the ultimate resourcing, is the connection to our essence. So when we connect to our essence, when we become aware of the essence, this is in fact the real resourcing. So we bring that in the room of therapy, in the beginning, before the exercises, in the middle and at the end. All the way through, we open up the field of essence, so the person in therapy understands and knows and comes in touch with the realm of essence and starts reconnecting gradually to the essential flow again in his own system, because that's the resourcing. Yeah? And as through the bioenergetic exercises, those tensions are being released in his system, the frozen honey that the tensions are, the frozen essence, starts melting again and starts flowing again in the system, and the resourcing takes place. It's really, really a beautiful process.